Are you looking for an inspiring listen? Something to motivate you? You've come to the right place. Welcome to Women of the Northwest, where we have conversations with ordinary women leading extraordinary lives. Motivating, inspiring, compelling. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Women of the Northwest. My guest today is Laura Yika, an exchange student from Germany. So, hello, Laura.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
You are so welcome. I think this is going to be fun and interesting. I've had exchange students before, but this one just sounds like such a great person to have right here in Napa with us. So, Laura, tell me about your experiences. Tell me what's you came from Germany?
Yes.
Or you are from Germany?
Yes.
And going back?
Yes, in 3 months.
What's your family like?
My family at home. So I'd say I have a pretty small family. I have my dad, my mom, and my brother. He's 12.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, I have like grandparents and my aunt. And yeah, I really have a good like relationship with them. Like I love them. I love them a lot. They're everything for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Saxony, so that's the most eastern part of Germany. It's like the most eastern state. It borders Poland and Czech. And I grew up in Dresden. That's the capital of Saxony. So
Okay.
that's my hometown, and I'm still living there 18 years later.
Yeah. Okay. What's your high school like?
My high school, it's like 400, 500 students.
Mm-hmm. So it's not huge.
Well, no, it's pretty small, but schools in Germany are usually like that. It depends. But yeah, I just changed school, so I was in a new class.
Okay.
Yeah.
What year in school are you?
I am a senior.
Okay.
Yes.
So did you do your junior year in Germany, or you did your senior year there and came here and did your repeated?
No, I did my junior year in Germany, and I have to repeat my senior year because it doesn't count.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
But the senior year in Germany kind of it's kind of 2 years. Like 2 years matter for your graduation in general, so I have like 2 more years to do when I go back home.
Okay. And then did you do you do a gap year?
Yeah, it's kind of my gap year, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that's not so common here in the States for people to do a gap year, but that's seems to be more in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
That's a type.
Yeah, it's a thing for sure.
Yeah. What's in your school in Germany? Like, what's your schedule like? Like, what hours do you go to school? And
usually from like, I think it's 8:20 to like 4.
Oh, so it's about the same.
Sometimes later. It just depends on my schedule. And yeah, I'm pretty much in school all day long, and then I go home and I really do a lot. Yeah.
Do you have a focus for what you want to do when you graduate?
My school has a focus on business. I go to a business high school. So our whole education, like we have classes like accounting and economics. So we have like we get our A levels, and it's like with a focus on business. But I actually want to become an English teacher when I grow up, so no business.
And your English is so good. I think you're at a good start for it.
Thank you.
Then do you have to take a TOEFL or the test for English language? It's pretty extensive. Our I had a Japanese exchange for a college exchange, and she had to take that to get into school over here, and it was really extensive. Yeah, I don't know if I could have passed it.
I took one, but it wasn't really hard. It was just questions, and I had to record it, and I think I passed because otherwise I wouldn't be here.
When did you start learning English?
In 3rd grade in elementary school.
So it's not so difficult.
No.
But a lot of people are. So in Germany, are a lot of people speaking both in German and English, or they're like if you're with your friends, are you speaking German? Probably.
I do, except for my best friend. Her name is Victoria, and we always talk in English because we don't like German, so we just do English because we both love English. But most people in Germany know English. Like, we grow up with it, especially like my generation or like my parents. My grandparents had to learn Russian or other languages, of course.
Yeah. Do you know other languages besides?
Yeah, I had Spanish for 5 years, and I started French last year.
So. Yeah, when I was in high school, I took both Spanish and French, and carried the French on into college, and I can say oui. No.
Yeah.
The things I remember are not near as much as I should have been able to.
It's a hard language. It's really hard.
Yeah, I liked it, and I think too, you kind of need to be visual to be able to know how to read it
Yeah.
because of the different EAUs and
Yes.
different, yeah,
It's really hard.
spellings of
It's
things
hard.
are really, really a lot different than, yeah. So what motivated you to become an exchange student?
So my mom actually, she was an au pair when she was 18 years old. She came to the States. She stayed in Boston
Mm-hmm.
for a year, and when I was growing up, she showed me her little photo books from her experience, and I was like, well, I want to do that when I grow up.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like, she was kind of my role model.
Mm.
So that's why I was like, why not do it? Because she was like, it was a really good experience,
Mhm.
and yeah, so
Yeah.
it's been my dream ever since.
And do you know other kids who have been exchange students?
In my friend group in Germany, this one girl, she went to South Africa. She did
Oh,
an exchange year, so that was really cool. My two of my best friends, they are actually half American, so
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Interesting. What about what were some of the challenges that you needed to hurdles or things to in order to become an exchange student?
It was COVID was a challenge for
Ah,
sure.
yeah, for sure.
I was actually planning on coming here last year, but it
Mm.
didn't work out with COVID, so that was hard because I didn't know am I able to go, like how is school gonna be, and like everything.
Mhm.
So that was really hard. And then of course money, like paying for an exchange year, is really really hard. So I
Mhm.
applied for multiple scholarships, and they have like a scholarship in Germany. It's a scholarship from the government. So
Mhm.
they have like an exchange program with the United States.
Mhm.
So students from Germany go to America, and then American students go to Germany.
Mhm.
And I applied for that, and I almost made it, but then I didn't. But it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So raising money, how much did you have to raise?
It was like I think 12,000.
That's a lot of money. Yeah.
But I had a job, so I worked,
Yeah.
and I know, like, since I've been like in 5th grade, I knew that I wanted to do it. So
Yeah.
we've been like kind of collecting money and like
Yeah.
saving up.
Yeah. So you think it was worth the investment?
Oh, for sure, for sure, no doubt. Yes.
What organization are you with?
I'm with Camps International. That's my German
Okay.
organization, and right now in the United States, I'm with ACES.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. What do you think? So now that you're here at school, would you say that high school in Napa compares to your schooling in Germany?
It's much more relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
It's more about people, and like it's more than just school. It's like sports, it's all the events in school more than actually like the focus on school, because in Germany I don't have dances, I don't have dress up weeks. It's just school.
Yeah.
And it's very tiring.
Mhm.
And here it's just fun. I go to school and I actually like, I get to hang out with all my best friends and have different classes that I could have never taken in Germany because we don't offer
Like
them.
what?
Like ceramics or choir or photography. We just don't have those, and we
Mhm.
can't really pick a schedule. Like we have a schedule, like everybody has kind of the same classes.
Yeah.
So
So in Germany though, it's club sports. It's not related to school.
exactly, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Mhm.
We do have PE class, but nothing compared to how sports are
Right.
here or what we do.
Where it's integral with
Yeah.
the school.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, what sports have you participated in?
I did volleyball for my fall sport.
Uh-huh.
I did basketball for my winter sport, and I'm currently playing softball for my spring sport.
Okay, so those are all new to you?
Yes, I've never played any of them except for volleyball a little bit in school and basketball.
Yeah, yeah. But they accepted you in, and you've been
Yes.
able to
Yes, they're amazing.
try some new things.
Yeah.
And yeah, what's the most fun about that? About
Mm.
any of them being into any of the sports?
Just the people. Like, just the team, they just take me the way I am. They just see me as a team member, and they just accept me, and it's just so fun being around them.
So maybe you have made some lifelong friends.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
The thing that's fortunate for you guys is that you have the internet and it's so accessible. You can Zoom after or do whatever. It won't matter
Yes.
that you're that far away, and maybe some of them will come and visit you.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I really hope so.
That would be really fun, wouldn't it? So let's see. You would probably then encourage other people to become an exchange student.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you have the opportunity to do, like, just spend a year abroad or just do an exchange, do it, because it'll honestly, it's like such a unique experience and you'll always remember it in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's your dream, keep fighting for it because it's going to be worth it.
That's cool. What was the hardest thing to adjust to being over here?
Honestly,
Claire.
no. Not really a bunch. Of course, school is different and, like, you know, just life in the States. Like, it's just, everything is bigger and the people are so different. And, like, I think probably, church,
Mhm.
because I've never really been to church in my life.
Mm.
So going to church is a super unique experience and I love it. It's amazing. Like, the people and just everything. And,
You like relationships.
yeah, I like people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should start your own podcast.
maybe I should. I might.
I could show you how. Yeah, I think people in Napa are really, it's just a nice community. It's just such a comfortable community. It's easy to get to know people. Although, when I moved here, I grew up in Arizona,
Oh, wow.
and then I moved to Oregon after I married Ed. I had already been in Oregon for 8 years, but I lived in Warrenton at that time.
Oh.
So then when I moved onto the farm out into Brownsmead, it was always, oh, you're Ed Johnson's wife. You're,
Yeah.
it wasn't, and even he's been here now. He moved here in 76. I don't even know if he's still considered a real Napa person, because
Yeah.
he wasn't born here. So there's a little bit of that kind of a culture going there. But people are generally friendly. If something goes on wrong, there's somebody to help you out and to be there for you. And
Things also I just remembered adjusting to is, like, in the city, I'm very independent. Like, we have public transportation. I can just ride my bike and, be somewhere in 10 minutes, or I can just take the tram and be there in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And
Not
here,
here.
I really need people to take me places because I can't drive here. So, but people have been amazing. They've been taking me places, so that's really
But
good.
that is a little limiting, when you lose some of your independence when
Yeah,
you're
for
out this
sure.
far. It's a little different when you're in Astoria, but still,
Yeah. It's smaller than my
Yeah.
hometown,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I think it's good.
Yeah.
It's a
Well,
friend.
even like Miss Jazz, the science teacher, just being from the Philippines, it's been
I
without
know.
being able to drive yet, and so there's been
Yeah.
some things there that have been a little challenging and
Mhm.
whatever. But I think she, like you, has found that people are pretty nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What about foods? What kind of Are there some things that you just love here that you don't have at home, or miss things that you can't wait to get home to eat?
I like American food. It's really good, but it's very rich and very, like, greasy and sugary. I do like mac and cheese. Sodas, ice cream, especially Ben and Jerry's. Dairy Queen is my favorite. My dad home cooked meals.
Yeah.
He's really good. Or when my mom bakes, like, that's
Yeah.
probably one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
But I'm also very excited for the food at home. Like, I can't wait. I'm really excited
Yeah.
for the bread, and just because the bread here is very gross.
No, yeah, it's nothing
No.
like European. No,
Mm-mm.
no. I mean, you can go to some bakeries that
Yeah.
are, but it's like,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we just don't quite have it the way it is in Europe. Yeah.
No.
Bakeries and things that are
Mm-mm.
pastries. All right, so let's see. Do you think you're going to encourage your brother to be an exchange student?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if he wants to, he should do it. My parents have asked him, and he was like, "Oh, well, I don't know." So
Yeah.
maybe, why not?
Yeah.
Like, he could totally do it.
That'd be fun. I had another thought there. I don't know. What do you think, after you go, what do you think the people at Napa High are going to remember or about you?
That's a really hard question to answer. I feel like I feel like I'm a person who's always pretty happy
Mm-hmm.
and I smile a lot. At least that's what people tell me. So maybe that. And I feel like I'm a person that you can always talk to. Like I would never be like, oh no, I don't want to talk to you. Like I'm always there for people
Uh-huh.
and I want to help them out. So maybe just as like open-minded and
Yeah.
happy, whatever,
Yeah.
and curious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Curious goes a long way. It does go a long way.
Yeah.
So, what do you think your next adventure is going to be?
That's a good question. My next adventure. Probably. I feel like prom is gonna be an adventure. Graduation, all the things. But going back, of course, like
Mhm.
adjusting to home and
Mhm.
then just moving on with life a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'll see.
Yeah. If you become an English teacher, would you want to do that in Germany or come back to the States and do that?
I don't see me living in the United States like forever. Like I want to live in Germany and I
Yeah.
want to raise my kids
Yeah.
there. But I could see myself coming back for like college. So that's for sure a possibility. Like I'm totally open for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
just
that would be
because
fun too.
being a teacher in Germany is different than in
Mhm.
America. It's more a safer job in Germany. It's better paid and it's
Mhm.
just there's some advantages that I would,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Some other advantages. That's great.
Yeah.
What jobs do your parents do?
My dad is an engineer, so he does stuff with like computer chips, and my mom, she it's kind of like like a receptionist. Like she in the company she works at, she's like kind of like when you go in the office, there's like a person with like a desk, and she's like kind of managing stuff. So she's an
Receptionist
assistant.
kind of
Yeah,
a-
she's an
or-
assistant.
and manager. Okay. All right. Fun. All right. Well, any other kind of things you'd like to share?
If you're thinking about being an exchange student, it's a good thing, but it's not always gonna be super easy, and you have to adjust to life and to the people, and the way you work may not work for the people you're living with. So always be respectful, but always communicate and always be honest, because this is how things should work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, that kind of is a life skill, isn't it?
yeah, for sure.
Anywhere you go, that's kind
Yeah.
of the same as how things
Yes.
should be. All right.
And a different thing I just wanted to say is I'm super grateful for my German family as well as my American family. First of all, for giving me the opportunity to stay abroad for a year, and them just having me. Like, it's really, like, a family just taking you for a year, you should be really grateful, because you should not take it for granted. So I'm super grateful, and I love you guys, and
Joining me now is Kristen DeForest, who has been the organizer for the exchange program. Tell me again the name of the...
Yeah, I work with American Cultural Exchange Services, or we like to call it ACES.
How did you get started doing that?
One of my very best friends, Heather, she has been a local coordinator in the Northern California area for 5 years now. And she invited me to participate in this program as a local coordinator. So I signed up, and I work for the organization trying to find host families in our community. And a part of that process for me is I wanted to learn what it's like to be a host family.
Right.
So I signed up to host a student as well, and that's how Laura came to be a part of my family.
Yeah, you made a good choice there.
Yes, I did. Heather actually is a part of the process. Laura is one of Heather's students that she placed through this school year. So
Okay.
Heather helped me find a student who would fit great with our family, and she's been wonderful. She is the sister that we have wanted to add, and the daughter that we're hoping to stay connected with for a lifetime. So
yeah.
it's been a great experience.
I'm sure you will too. So let's say a person is kind of interested, but they don't really know what this means for them. Like, how long does a student stay here? Are they reimbursed for any of the expenses? Are there what exactly is their commitment to being a host?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jan. So, and that's, everyone's wondering, maybe I want to do that. I'm interested in other cultures. I'd be willing to share my home and my family with someone, but what does it really take? So, the biggest thing to understand is there's lots of exchange programs out there that you can participate in. or decide to host with. For ACEs, it's a cultural exchange. And so that's really our focus. When kids come, we want them to be a part of the community, get involved in their schools, volunteer, serve, really be a part of their host family, whatever their family's doing, get involved with that, and be open to things that maybe you haven't done before. And so as a host family, your job is really just welcoming that student into your home. With our organization, we are looking for people they're volunteers. And so there isn't any reimbursement for having them in your home. You provide them with a room, which can be shared with a sibling, and provide them with a place for their things. They need a place to be able to study, and also with food. So the expectation is that you would provide their meals for them. And so then there's some flexibility. Every host family kind of gets to decide what their limitations are. And we can customize that for you and set those expectations up front. So students coming know that maybe you are only willing to pay for them to eat out with your family once a month, and the other meals out they need to pay for.
Right.
Some families choose that.
Yeah.
Maybe you won't pay for any of the meals out. Maybe you are in a different situation and you can pay for everything and you're fine with that. Maybe you know you're going to go on a spring break trip every year and your student's going to need to buy their ticket,
Right.
but you're going to pay for everything else. You really get to kind of set that when you're doing your application and what's going to work for your family. But the bare minimum is their own bed, their own dresser, place to study, and their 3 meals every day.
Now,
and
when
of course, depending on, like for me, transportation,
Right.
We're in a rural community. There is no public service, or public transportation services. So you have to really know where you live and what the needs in your own area might be for a student who needs to go to sports or get to school. And
Right.
so,
Because they cannot drive in the States.
correct. Our organization, we are not here to teach kids how to drive or get them their American driver's license. That's not the point. Some organizations do those kinds of things, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But with us, that's not the primary focus. And in many countries, like in Germany, you don't start driving until you're 18. So it wouldn't even be appropriate
Right.
for a student coming when they're 16 years old
Right.
to be driving.
Right.
So
how would a potential family go about choosing their child?
So with the organization, I have a list of students that we have already chosen that have been approved by their countries. They've gone through their evaluations. They're available to be placed in the United States. And so our headquarters is in Washington, in the Seattle area, and they choose students. And then as a coordinator, my job is to share those profiles from those students with interested families
Okay.
and find a student that matches. So the best thing to do if you're interested is to find a local coordinator for your organization that you're interested in and reach out to them and say, hey, can you help me? I'd like to place a student. And I would start with maybe a specific country that you're interested in. Like I have someone right now who wants a student from Japan. Well, we don't have any students in our organization, but I do have someone from Mongolia. And that student has been studying Japanese for 6 months. And I thought, well, maybe that would be something you'd be interested in. So I shared that profile and they're considering it.
Yeah.
And so there may be something, if you're open to other cultures, that we could find that's a good fit. And for me, I had no idea which country I wanted. And so that gave my friend Heather the opportunity to really find a student that had similar interests as my family does.
Yeah.
And so we'll look at that. Maybe you are a musical family. Well, there's students with musical abilities, and maybe you have an athletic high school son and you want someone who also plays soccer like your son. Well, we'll find a great soccer player. There's tons of kids that play soccer and they're great athletes. So someone that would fit in with what your family's already doing. The goal is for them to be a part, not to I don't know, like
to
they
experience,
fit in, to experience and be a part of
it's-
your family.
Right, to experience what life in this part of the United States is, and just different people and different cultures, rather
Exactly.
than so much as the academics and which are important as well, but still.
Yes. Oh, there is definitely, academics are important.
Yeah.
There's an expectation. It's a C or above.
Yeah.
You don't get to come to America and fail your classes.
Yeah.
That's not acceptable. They need to be excellent students in America, just like they are at home.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So
it's not vacation.
we'll put a link in the show notes about
Yeah.
how they can get hold of your organization or you, and
Yeah, of course.
to find out.
One of the things you can do if you're interested in learning more
Mhm.
about ACEs is visit exploretheworld.org,
Okay.
and or you can reach out to me if you want to know more.
Okay.
I would love to talk to people. I am looking for people right now who'd be interested in hosting. So,
Okay. So this is Kristen DeForest, and your phone number?
my phone number is 503-468-2400.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Jan. This
All
has
right.
been awesome.
All right. Bye bye.
I forgot to say something.
We can say one thing because I can always say it again.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay,
Something.
I'll move out of here.
I just wanted to
Rotate.
thank my parents and
Oh,
them
oh,
for,
gosh.
for having me. I was like,
you don't need to die. It's so good.
Okay. Let's see. Let's put this guy back in here.
I'm like talking really fast, Jan. I'm like, what did you even
I know.
ask